going to read you guys a little story. So real estate sales will plummet. Agent Christo has been bombarded with all sorts of negative news regarding the residential real estate market. With so many so-called industry experts predicting that the real estate bubble will burst and that rising interest rates would lock buyers out of the market, Christo has reason to be worried. As the sole income earner of his household, he knows that generating a steady income, even in good times, was difficult for him. He worried that he might have to listen to his brother-in-law and get a real job. Instead of surrendering to his fears, Christo decides to take control of the situation, and he knew that he would have to research the truth and have information ready to provide to his prospects who were held back by the naysayers. He believed it was possible to offer hope and real solutions during uncertain times. He started his learning journey by talking to his broker, befriending other successful agents in his area, and spending many late nights researching. He wanted to find the truth. And Nate's going to share with us what he found here in another minute. Sales decreasing during the Great Recession, 2008 to 2012. Christo found information that challenged his view on the market shift. He learned that during the Great Recession, existing home sales in the US fell an average of 20% annually compared to before the recession. Christo realized that the reasons for moving, detailed in the Harvard study, are what drives sales regardless of market conditions. Christo decided to create a formula he could use to calculate the number of existing and new home sales that should take place in his market area each year. Through his research, he learned that the average US household has 2.3 occupants. The homeownership rate in the US is currently 65.5, and that the percentage of homeowners that sell each year in the US averages 7%. He sat and pondered all he had learned. Christo imagined the flow of a great river. Having grown up on the Mississippi, he remembered the day that his dad told him that the river spanned over 2,000 miles and deposited more than 500,000 gallons of water per second into the Gulf of Mexico. As a child, he couldn't even imagine the power of such a mighty river. Inspired by his memory of the powerful Mississippi, Christo named his new system the River of Real Estate. He wanted everyone to know that new and existing home sales flowed like the mighty Mississippi, regardless of market conditions. He created a worksheet so that any real estate agent could calculate the river of real estate in their market. Christo prepared a script that he could use when speaking to buyers and sellers who didn't want to move forward in today's market because they feared real estate sales would plummet. How many of you guys relate to Christo? I just saw yesterday on Facebook an agent that posted this beautiful thing about a sale she had made. She referenced what it might have sold for 6 months ago. And in the comments, people were commenting, and some lady commented, said, yeah, we really missed the mark. We tried to sell our house, we wanted to buy, but we got beat out. And now we're out of luck because the interest rates have gone up. And this agent responded, and I'm not kidding you, responded with, I understand. It's so expensive right now. I don't know how anybody can buy. Yeah. So what do you think I did? I couldn't resist myself. Could not resist myself. I had to jump in there and give an alternative perspective on that. Comments like that are going to drive you out of business. Right? Comments like that are going to be your brother-in-law telling you to go get a job. So Nate, want to share the Harvard? Are we doing Harvard study next, or this?
Well, I thought we were, but we'll come back to the Harvard study because I think it's down a couple slides. So basically, the river, right, is this flow. And what we did is we took those numbers that Sarah talked about in that story, and basically we used the city of Glendale. So in the city of Glendale, there's 249,000 people. That's the census, okay? We take the 2.3, that's the average household nationally per home. That leaves, there should be households of 108 households in the city of Glendale. Then we take the 65% of national home ownership. There should be 71,000 homeowners in the city of Glendale, okay? What we're really trying to do here is get your mindset right and how you're communicating with people. So if the average annual turnover in sales is 7%, and a lot of you guys have been to our marketing classes, we're looking for a 5 to 9%. It's usually around 7% is the sweet spot to market and farm to. That number for the city of Glendale shows that there's going to be almost 5,000 homes sell in the next 12 months. Okay. Now, we're gonna give this to you and you'll have it, but here's the Harvard study. And with the Harvard study, I think, Tanya, you probably paid for part of this, sending your son to school there. But 13% of the US population moves every single year. Think about that. Why are they moving, right? Job, relocation, divorce, getting married, new children, right? Death. Unfortunately, I had a client that passed last month, and this just is an example of what happens, right? So the daughter called me and she goes, Nate, now that my dad's alone, we want to sell their house, we want to sell our house, and we want to buy a house with a detached guest house. So if you have one of those, let me know in the Northwest Valley. Oh, we have one coming up. But, you know, people make decisions. Neither one of them were planning on moving 30 days ago.
How many real estate transactions is that going to be?
That'll be 3. Yeah. And 6 sides, I guess, if you want to take it out. And who knows how that domino
And
goes
let's
forward.
go a little deeper with that. So you went to the funeral.
Yeah, but that's not relevant,
Okay,
right?
well,
Yeah.
you went to a life event, and had you not gone,
Mm.
maybe
And it
that
started on
conversation-
Facebook. I found out about that on Facebook. And I made a comment, right? And, you know, so anyway, so so you need to look for different things. People are gonna always be moving up, moving down. They have financial crisis. They've lost their job. They want to move to a better neighborhood, better schools. 13% every single year move. But some of those are renters, right? But if you think about it, of the 7%, you know, you can see at the top here, 40% of the 13% are housing related, 27% are family related, 21% are job related. Those are things that usually you can't control to some extent, right? So, so regardless of the real estate market that we're entering, these 13%. So we need to focus on where the buyers and sellers are. Let's not focus on the people that aren't going to buy. We need to focus on the people that are going to buy. Because in my 36-year career, through recessions, through presidencies, everything, the market still goes on, and there's some people in the business that are getting more than their fair share, right? So it's okay if we get more than our fair share, isn't it? Right? Okay, cool.
So I think it's important to tattoo that 13% on your, like, somewhere that you can see it every single day, especially on the days when you feel like real estate sales are going to plummet, or the feds just raised the rates again, or whatever negativity you see or hear, to just remind you that 13% still continue to move. And I would also, we're going to give you that worksheet so you can figure out, we just did city of Glendale, but you know, you could go into a certain zip code, you could do different cities, you could do subdivisions, you could figure out the population is like, if you work a farm, it'd probably be wise to figure out what that looks like for future sales, and then test it. Go into the MLS and see if it's accurate for last year.
If you do business with real marketing or thinking about it, they'll do the research for you on any subdivision there. Of course, they want to be your vendor to push that information out to. So let's kind of go back in time. So let's go back to December, January. I need your input to help build this model. If you were representing a buyer that was buying a house for $375, what happened? January, December. Anybody? I see prices, the price went up. Multiple offers. Who had the highest multiple offer on a price in that? Anybody recall? What's that? Cash buyer, okay.
Mike?
Yeah. So it's okay, I'll repeat these. So what we're hearing is a $200,000 above list price. What I was trying to get, how many bids did you get on a house that you were involved in? You know, sometimes we see 10, 20, 30, 20, yeah. 22, okay. 32, all right, sold. All right, so on average, what do you think the 375,000 homes sold for on average?
425.
I hear 410. Anybody higher?
450.
450? Yeah, so let's just kind of average out. Let's just use 425. It's an easy number for me to remember, right? Which is 50,000 above list. Is that fair? Okay. And who were buying these houses, by the way? Mostly investors in this price range. And what did they give up? They gave up repairs. They gave up the protection of an appraisal. If they were financing, they had to come in with more money because they did the appraisal gap and had to take more money out of their pocket, correct? That was the market we were in, right? So Sarah and I are going to talk about, I have this thing in my mind. It's we got to get the buyer off the couch, okay? So we got to get them off the couch. There's no way they're going to buy a house unless we get them off the couch. So Sarah, I'm going to call her up, but to set the stage, okay? Oh, it's already there. Okay, sorry. So Sarah was looking to buy in December, January, but was constantly outbid, right? Didn't buy a house, right? Basically lost interest, and she's just a lead in my Boomtown account, right? And I'm going to call her, and we're just going to kind of role play this out. And I want you to just kind of listen. This is not really a scripted thing. This is just a conversation, but there is scripts in the conversation, okay? So, hello, is Sarah there?
This is.
Hi, Sarah, Nate Martinez, how you been?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, you kind of dropped off the radar. We were looking at houses back in December and January, and the market shifted. You just decided to hold up. What are you doing about your housing these days?
We're living with the in-laws.
Oh, that's got to be nice.
Yeah, cheap rent.
You know, why haven't you been back in the market? The market's great right now.
I just got so burnt out, Nate. When we wrote 10 offers, couldn't get anything accepted. And now with the interest rates, gosh, I'm just worried that real estate's gonna explode. That's what everybody says on the news.
Well, what are you going to do? You're going to live with your in-laws for what, 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
I don't know, I guess.
Really?
What choice do I have? I can't afford rent and, the payments can be too expensive now.
Right. Well, you're telling me that interest rates are too high, can't afford the payment. You love your in-laws, right?
Yeah, I'm saying all that.
Yeah. Okay. So what if I could tell you, I can show you a way, Sarah, that with our negotiations in the current market, comparing to when you were trying to buy in December and January, that I could get 7 years of the difference in the interest rate from like 3% to the 7+% that we're looking at today.
Well,
Would that be interesting to you?
Yeah, how would you do that?
Well, do you have time to come into the office so I can show it to you?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, first step, got her off the couch, right? So now we have an appointment, okay? So again, you can do this over the phone, of course, but the goal is to get them in and moving. Because I will tell you this, if you can get somebody off the couch with a plan, and if they walk into a home that they love, there's a good chance they might make an offer, right? I like to think about buying a car. People go in and buy a car, they test drive it, they love the leather smell, they look good in it, they're looking at themselves in the mirror as they're
Worse when
driving
you're
down
waiting
the
for
road.
an oil change. That's when it always gets
Yeah,
you.
they put themselves in that car. Then they go find out that the payment's higher than they want. And they tell the salesman, I'd love it, but my budget's 7. This is coming in at 8. So the salesman goes in the back room with the finance guy. They're probably talking about, did you make your picks for the games this week? And they come up with a program. That program, they come back out and said, Jim, I can do that sell for 700. The difference is that we're going to give you a 7-year mortgage loan on the car versus a 5, right? They find a way to make it and then you drive out happy. Happens every day, right? Has happened every day since I've been alive, I guess. All right, so we got the number 50,000. Okay. So now I bring Sarah into the office, and I don't know if I have a slide on that. Let's see.
You should.
Okay. So before I show that, I'm going to bring Sarah in the office. And I'm going to say, look, Sarah, I'm going to go through that same scenario. When we were looking at houses at 375, on average, they were selling about 425,000. That's $50,000. If we go out in the marketplace today, Sarah, I can save you that 50,000.
You can?
Yeah, because the house is going to sell for 375, and with my negotiations, maybe even a little less.
Okay.
Now, I'm just putting a goal out there. I can't guarantee anything, but just follow with me, Sarah. We're going to ask the seller to also pay $10,000 in concessions. Well, first of all, I'm going to come in lower. I'm going to come in 365. which is gonna save you another 10,000. So we're at 60,000 now, right?
Okay, yep.
All right, we're gonna also ask the seller to pay $10,000 towards a 2-1 buy down. Okay,
You're telling me a seller 10 months from later, but we were just looking at houses not that long ago. You're telling me they're gonna give me money to buy their house?
yes, I'm telling you that. Okay, now again, that's the goal. We've seen some scenarios like this play out, not all exact, but we're seeing a shift in the market, right? That now is bringing you back in. We see this in the new home builders. We see this in the sellers. People want to move because what we know is 13% of people have to move every year. And if one of these sellers are in that 13% that have to move, and even the 7% that are moving, that are homeowners, this could possibly happen.
Okay,
Okay.
tell me more.
Well, so let's just say, Sarah, that if I could save you 400, round figures, $400 a month on your house payment for the first year and $200 for this a month on the second year, would that help you move forward?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, now, I think you mentioned on the phone call the other day that you thought about maybe waiting till the interest rates came down, right? Well, what I did some research. I went to Freddie Mac, going back 41 years. Interest rates have never been as low as they were that we just came out of, right?
40 years?
41 years to be exact.
Wow.
That's when VA started doing this chart that I grabbed, right? Same thing in FHA, right? We've never seen a 2.5%, 3.5% interest rate anytime in 41 years. So the chance of that coming back, guys, is probably never, right? Thank God I refinanced with model mortgage at 1.5%. Yes, thank you, Brian. 1.5, guys, that's what I got on my house, 15 years. Get chills. We can never move.
You never
That's
move.
great.
Dying in that house.
So Sarah, those payments sound right to you? Would that work?
Yeah, that's definitely got my interest peaked.
Okay, so roughly, guys, if you do the math on the 400 and the 200, it's almost another $10,000 in savings, right? So it's quite possible if you know what to say and you find the right house. And there's other things you can talk about when you're in that consultation with Sarah. It might be something like this, Sarah. It's like, one of the great things about today is you can actually do a home inspection and we can find things wrong with the house. And it's a good possibility the seller's going to fix them. Where back when you were looking in January, that's not going to happen. And that might be another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
I just negotiated $20,000 off of the list price yesterday on a deal I had in escrow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So understanding the market, right? Understanding our representation. Sarah had mentioned that the agent online, which we all know who she is, it's kind of odd that she would say that. But then again, I guess it's not that odd. But
yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
well, I didn't say who it was. It's just odd. Bottom line, we have to make sure that we're.
It was none of you in this
No,
room,
nobody
just
here.
caveat, okay?
So I lost my whole train of thought. But going through this process, we're just trying to show people that there is an option. Oh, I know what it was. There was a news article on Channel 3 this last week. Alex Rubio sent me the article. I watched the video attached to it. And the agent was asked, right, the reporter was asking him, with interest rates so high and, people are afraid to buy and they're worried about their payments, what do you think they should do? He said, quote, I think they should wait. Right? That's what he said. That was our representation as a realtor. So I want you guys to think about when people tell somebody to wait, what they're telling them, right? Ownership is an amazing thing, right? When you own a house, you have more pride. You go to Home Depot, you're always fixing it up. As a renter, ask Brandy, I'm my renter for 7 years. I think I'm over $30,000 in remodeling as of today, and I'm not done, right? They freaking trash the place, right? So renters, a lot of them don't have the pride of ownership as a homeowner. Think about anybody that has children. What if you had to move? How many people had to move because their landlord sold the house and cashed in? Then they moved and the rates went up. Then they moved again, right? When you own a house, your mortgage is locked in for 30 years. And in this case, with 2-1 buy down, there's some subsidy there.
NAR has, you can go on NAR and there's all kinds of different studies that show that marriages last longer, children have better self-esteem, they do better in school. There's all these other benefits, and we always focus in on the money piece of it as realtors, but homeownership, and can I just tell a real quick story about my
Sure.
sister-in-law? I know we got to be mindful of time, but so I moved into this neighborhood in March. My sister-in-law came over, she said, we're going to rent forever. We can't afford these houses. Our rent's $900 a month. It just is what it is. Fast forward to June. Only a couple months later, prices came down just a smidge in Prescott Valley, just a little bit. She calls me on a Thursday and says, hey, is your lender still so-and-so? Yep, give her a call. We're thinking about buying. Okay, blows me away, right? Because that was March to June, not that long. $900 in rent, get her pre-qualified. We go out, we're under contract by Monday afternoon. Their house payment went from 900 to 1,800. That's significant, right? That's double, but they are over the moon happy. And they are so happy, and that now they're homeowners, and they only live a mile from me, which is bonus to me. So I tell that story because it's a great example of, a short window of time, and literally Thursday afternoon by Monday night, we were under contract. And so just, you never know what people's motivation is going to be. And she's paying a lot more interest than I am on my rate.
So again, this is a pretty blown up example. About $80,000 of overall possible savings from buying in December, buying today. But let's just say it's only half that, Sarah, right? There's some way that I can negotiate $40,000 better. Would you want to go out and buy a house today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, Sarah, I got about 5 houses that I already have scheduled for, so let's go out and take a look.
Great. Let's go.
Now, when Sarah's out there, she walks in the house and she gets that great feeling you have when you walk into something that you love and you can start to see your family and all that stuff. She's probably going to go to a contract. But I guarantee you this, if I didn't call her, she'd still be on the couch, right? So we need to get what? Everybody off the what? Couch. Good, good. I feel like a motivational speaker. Down by the river. All right, so let's show you. So what I'm doing on our listings, if our seller allows, is we're asking the seller and we're telling them about the market, what's going on. We're talking about buy downs now, right? Now, I got to be honest with you, in my career, I never liked buy downs of any type. I like to get the equity. So if it costs $10,000, I like the $10,000 equity than the lower payment. That's me, right? That's the way my mind works as an investor, right? But Sarah's not an investor. She's a first-time home buyer. So what we're doing is on the listings now, this is an exact listing I have right now, priced at $375. So the numbers I'm going to show you, I went to Model Mortgage and I said, look, I need help. I need something because I'm not the brightest kid in the room. Can you do all the numbers for me? Can you make it in a situation where I put it into a PDF, into the MLS documents? Because I want to offer this to every single home buyer that looks at my listing. And I also want it to be easy enough for a cross-sell agent that doesn't know anything about 2-1 buy downs. Here's the example, right? So here's the example. So I'm going to go through it. So I know it's small. Price is $375. And in this case, I'm paying full price. We didn't do the buy down. In my mind, when I did this form, it was a $400,000 type of sell. But this is an actual listing, $375. 5% down is 356, 250. Hard for me to talk in 300s. 7.25%. I don't know if that's accurate today because I think rates went up again. 30-year mortgage, 12 payments a year, principal and interest payment of $2430.25. Okay, so the first year buy down, right, is 2%, right? So it goes down to 5.25. The reduce in the payment is $463. You notice when I talked to her, I used number 400, right? I knew this number was higher, right? So Sarah, I can save you $463 a month on the first 12 months, which is going to save you this first year, $55, $56. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. And in the second year, Sarah, the rate's going to go to 6.25 and your payment's going to be 236 less than the normal note, right? And that's gonna save you another $2,841 in your second year. So over the first 2 years, you're gonna save $8,397.45.
What if the rates go down? What then?
You can refinance
I can
Yeah.
refinance anytime?
anytime, yeah. You will lose some of that benefit, but if the rates go down, you cash in, right? So, let's see, is that right, Brian? Can you use it? Okay, hold on, we're gonna get this on, we're gonna get this on mic, Brian. That's. So
Yeah,
what Brian is saying, if you refinance, let's say in the first year, and there was still $5,000 left of unused buy down, what happens?
It goes right back to the buyer. It's the buyer's money.
Buyer's money.
Wow.
See, what the seller's doing is they're paying the concession, that monthly subsidy. They're paying that up front. It costs the seller, use my little pointer here, $8,397. That's what will go on the settlement statement for concessions for the buyer. I don't know what that is, a percentage of 365. Does it matter, Brian? Does it matter in the percentage of on this one, I think was an FHA?
Which,
Yeah, the buy downs, the seller buy down goes in that computation for seller concession.
Okay,
so I just did the math on 375. We used to always ask for, what's happening? We used to always ask for 3% concession, right? That's actually $11,250. So this is actually saving the seller money in this scenario versus asking for a straight 3%.
Marion has a question. She got the memo. Blue was the color. Thank you.
Yes, it was, yes. Brian, where does that money stay? This buy down,
Buy down money?
yeah,
Buy down money sits with the servicer of the loan. So every month, they're gonna
Okay.
give a portion of that back to like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, the
Right.
investment pool. So they give it back to the actual investor of the loan.
okay, but if the buyer were to refinance, that money would actually go to the buyer.
It would go right back to the buyer, just
Or-
like their escrow account for insurance and taxes.
Okay,
That's their little, I always tell the buyer, it's their little checking account with the lender, but you don't write out checks. So it's your money, if you refinance or sell, you'll get it back.
okay,
It's just same with the buy down money too. It's their money that the servicer of the loan is gonna pay to the investor of the loan.
all right, and my other question is, people get caught up in all the language, and it's hard to understand. What would the difference be, like a 7.25% interest rate? What if you bought it down to 6 and
That's the other thing you could do is Nate is talking about a temporary. interest
Right,
buy down.
a
You could
per-
do
permanent.
permanent interest rate buy downs too.
Where do those numbers come in?
Well, it's gonna depend upon, I should know that.
I
It's gonna
know,
depend on
but
the
it's
loan
okay.
amount and everything, but.
Yeah.
And I,
Because sometimes buyers would like to know that, you know what, I'm moving in the house and it's not gonna change. Plus the fact that they have to qualify at the 7.25 anyway.
Right.
So
on a permanent buy down, that helps the buyer. They get qualified at the lower.
Lower
interest rate.
rate.
Doesn't help them on the temporary.
Right.
But it helps them on the permanent buy down.
So maybe I can help, and again, I'm not a lender, I just have to have numbers up here I can quote. So in this particular example, if you bought it down 1%, and Brian, you could probably tell me what is 1% buy down cost right now, I know
I think it's
approximately.
about 3 points to buy it
Okay.
down.
So 3 points to buy it down, in this case, it's about $10,000, I guess is the number that you wrote.
11,250.
11,250. So this is why I never liked the permanent buy down, because it was 11,250 to save $236 a month. Right?
But that's your opinion. That might be.
No,
the
I know
difference
that. That's
Between a
my
buyer
opinion, right, yeah.
qualifying and a buyer not qualifying,
Right,
or a buyer feeling comfortable and feeling like, okay, yeah, I can do that.
right. And that's what I said. That's why I said, when I look at it from my point of view, from a buyer's point of view, that's your difference. And it's right there in the same form that if you want to do a permanent buy down of 1% of the interest rate, that's the number. It's going to save you $2,841 per year for the next 30 years. Right? It's a big number, right? But now you have to qualify on the 2-1 buy down on the top number. you're not qualifying on the lower payment. You're qualifying because you're qualifying on the 30-year mortgage. And the subsidy is kind of that separate piggy bank, if you will.
So in your words matter, we need to get to the next slide too.
Yeah,
but-
words
so we have
matter.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Your words matter. So don't call it a 2-1 buy down. That's industry jargon, right? So there's a builder in town that's got a big old billboard that says, ask us about our 2-1 buy down. I'm like, that's a waste of space, but, call it something like an interest rate reduction program. 'Cause
Be
that's-
unique, yeah.
Be unique, make it sound sexy, make it sound cool and different. So that's something that it goes, yeah, Jim, I'd like to know about that, right? Instead of industry jargon.
So, maybe something to think about is how do you market this? How do you market this on Facebook? How do you market this in an email to your clients? Or how do you pick up the phone and explain this? And it's fairly easy, right? But this is the key, having a interest rate offset program, people may want to lean in and listen to what you have to say, right? And that's what we're trying to do. So again, and like on the listing here, just to close this segment, we have in the first line of the public remarks, talking to the buyer, that the seller's offering this incentive, right? Checked it out with my broker. It's pretty cool. If you do it, right? Just don't act like a realtor and quote rates and stuff. In the realtor remarks, I tell them, go to the document section and look at the document.
Could you make that public though in MLS, that
I'm
document?
making it public and I got my broker's okay, right?
Okay.
Because it's relevant to the house, right? It's like a new roof, if you will, right? And having that in the front, people on Zillow and Redfin and all that stuff can see that. And we need to, and again, you gotta have your seller's permission, probably have them sign something that they're committing to pay for this at the time of listing. Or later on the listing, maybe in lieu of a price adjustment, this is an option.
And
Okay,
make sure,
Sarah, go ahead.
make sure you have all the disclosures and stuff. Don't do it yourself. Model Mortgage has put together that amazing slide there. And they'll do that for you too. So, make sure you're doing it right. We don't want to misrepresent and then somebody gets in trouble quoting something that they're
Yeah.
going to be quoting. So real quick before we get into the action items, yesterday I pulled MLS. Anybody know how many active homes are on the market? Over 20,000. Yeah, almost 21. 20,952. This was around noon yesterday. There were 2,144 under contract contingencies, backups, 4,409 pending. So that's a total of 6,553 that are under contract. And then again, yesterday, October, this number will probably fluctuate because some agents don't update their MLS. But as of yesterday, there were 5,620 homes that sold in October. So I'm sharing that with you because I want you to think that real estate's not plummeting. There's still sales that are happening. And so we have to change our mindset. 3/4 of what we do in this industry is all what happens up here, right? So you're going to have a good year, you're going to have a bad year. You have to commit to what do we want to say here. So we're going to give you guys some homework. Those of you that are in the gas program, this would be awesome to take this to your accountability groups and work on it together. You don't have to be in the gas program. If you want to layer up your accountability, send it to me or Nate or Mike or Kim or whoever you feel comfortable sharing your pillars of business. So one of the things we coach about is that you should have 4 pillars or buckets that keep your business going. And each of them should independently be able to keep your business going 100%. So that if one falls out, right? Some people who are paying lots of money for Zillow, what happened to them? That pillar went away, right? So personally, I think that 75% of your business should come from your database, your past client, your sphere, your top 50. If you don't know what top 50 is, that is a list of people who are evangelical about you, right? Chris, they wouldn't do business with anybody but you, and they won't allow anyone they care about to do business without you. Top 50 is an amazing concept that if you really work it, the goal is that it could result in 86 transactions. I don't know. I think that'd be a pretty good year to do 86 transactions from a group of 50 people. So
Be
we're gonna
okay to do 10, right?
So we're gonna send this out to you guys, but can you get to the next slide?
Okay, you want to talk about this one first? or-
Yeah,
Okay,
this is just
that's the same.
basically mapping it out. There's an example of how you could do your pillars for each week of the month, using the different examples of pillars. But what I really wanted to show them was the next slide. And again, we're gonna send this out to you guys. This was crowdsourced by a whole bunch of coaches across the United States. And it was just, what are ways that we can generate leads that are beyond the typical expired, canceled top 50, all of that. So we crowdsourced all this, and there's some really cool ideas in here. We used to advertise in the Phoenix Bridal magazine way back in the day, right? Because people are getting married. What do they need to do? Oftentimes they need to buy. Sometimes I had one couple that they got married later in life. I had 3 transactions from that marriage. There's 2 houses to sell and 1 to buy together. And so there's some really different ideas up here, and this is designed to help you kind of think outside the box. So again, Mike, we're gonna send this out, correct? You guys are gonna get,
Yep, we're gonna have that, power broker stuff we mentioned and, anything else that happens to help in the next 10 minutes.
yeah, so I would really, really challenge you, especially with this time of year, look forward to, I mean, there's still time, right? There's still time to sell some houses. We don't shovel sunshine here, so then December 31st, you can still get a deal in escrow. So really thinking about next year, what do your pillars look like? And then building out a plan around those pillars. It's not gonna do any good to identify what they are if I don't then have a plan of action to make that pillar actually produce some leads. Okay, Nate, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to go back to this here. I mean, this is basically looking what you should do in a week when you're nurturing your gardens, right? These are all gardens, little farms, if you will. You know, if you have a garden, and I tried gardening even with Kyle's coaching, and my garden's all dead because I don't have time to water, plant, pull weeds, and all that stuff. So you got to do the same thing. You know, we teach it in the book that we wrote to have an intentional week, right? Without an intentional week, we're just all just running around with mice in a maze, right? But with an intentional week, knowing what you're going to do when you wake up tomorrow, right? I knew that we were going to be here today at 9 o'clock, right? I know where I'm going to be at 11:45. So make sure I get out of the mastermind on time to drive to the other side of town. So, which one thing on my intentional week, I'm not saying this happens every day, but I have lunch on my intentional week with a vendor, a client, or a friend, right? Not necessarily another realtor, but I do have lunch with realtors because that's a good way for us to mentor and coach. But, you know, it's intentional, right? So if I can do that a couple times a week, that's pretty cool. It's not perfect, it's intentional, right? So just, you know, you can see here how this breaks down. You get 4 different pillars. Each week you can work on a different pillar. So that's the way it works. You know, Sarah said something, it's all mindset. In my 36 years of being a realtor, I've heard people say this about this time of year. Well, it's really slow around the holidays. We're in the holidays. Well, last I checked, the holiday was Monday, right? One day. Thanksgiving's one day. Christmas is one day, and the various other religious holidays are all one day. It's not a season. Everybody else has to work, so realtors don't have to stop working and thinking that nobody's going to buy and sell. I've sold a house every month for 36 years.
I've
Right.
sold a house on Christmas and New Year's.
Right, Roberta, get a mic to Roberta, please.
Sold one on my birthday. That was a really good day.
Besides a house that I sold on Christmas Eve, my best one was on New Year's Day at 6 a.m. I took a referral call from an agent in Florida who gave me a referral. I sold, my team knows this story. I sold that woman's house, listed it, sold it. She moved to Florida, hated it. Literally moved back 8 months later, bought another house. Remember her, Marion? Didn't like that house, sold that house. Bought another house and has called me and said, now we're getting divorced, need to sell this house. This all happened in 24 months
Wow.
You know where they're getting divorced? It's because they moved so many times.
because I answered the phone at 6 a.m. on New Year's Day.
Right. So I used to live at 55th Avenue in Peoria. And I saw this really, and this was 1990, 91, something like that. And on Christmas Eve, I see this killer black Mercedes show up on the house I had listed across the street, and I'm checking it out. And the phone rings. And it's Mrs. Garcia from the Garcia's restaurant. Christmas Eve. Wants to buy a house for her son. Happens to be maybe that house. Could you see it? Happen to be in the neighborhood. Go over there on Christmas Eve, show the house. I remember, because I procrastinate, everybody that knows me, I was shopping at the time at Dillard's at Metro Center about 5:30 on Christmas Eve because I needed to take care of a present or two. And the phone rings again. It's Mrs. Garcia wants to write the house cash. Right? So again, people buy every day of the year.
What's the percentage of people that move every year?
Right.
Stay a little louder, 13%.
And how many are homeowners or buyers are 7%?
7%. Was helpful, you guys? How many are gonna go out and call somebody on your database that's on the couch?
Get them off the couch,
See
guys.
some hands up, right? This is a great, I personally am excited, this time last year and having actually bought a house during this crazy time, getting lucky and finding a for sale by owner, it was stressful. And I've been doing this 25 years. I closed the deal last summer, 7 offers I had to write for that buyer. And Diana, I kind of pride myself on my negotiation skills, maybe 2 or 3 in the past, 7. And the only reason we got that deal accepted is because the first offer fell through. And she came back to me as the backup offer. And I told her, I said, you should have taken my offer to begin with, right? So I've never had to work that hard. And I heard somebody say the other day that they're bracing themselves that this market's going to be hard. And I said to her, why? Why does it have to be hard? And she looked at me and she goes, I guess you're right. Right? So it doesn't have to be hard. There's 21,000 homes in the market. This is the first time in 30 years that new homes are affordable, right? People can go out and buy a new home, and they're giving away the farm on some of these new construction stuff out there. And by the way, that one builder that wasn't paying commission, they're now getting bonuses if stuff closes before the end of the year. So go out and check them out because they've got some really great product out there. So
5%.
yeah, but well, I guess, are we supposed to say apples?
No, we're not negotiating. So
Alex, do we have any questions on Zoom? No
All right.
questions? Anybody else in the audience have questions, comments?
hey, guys, I promise I'll get you guys out of here at 10 o'clock. It is 10 o'clock on the dot. I appreciate your time.
If you want to stick around for a minute, we're gonna give a few things away though.
Right? Oh, we gotta be quick because I promised them. And,
Well, you can
and
leave.
after the giveaway, if you want to stay for the mastermind, you want any challenge or problem that we can kind of all get together and solve, come right up here.
What are we giving away?
All right, well, sir, you're